Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of Tony Talks Get Up and Grow, where I have conversations with inspirational leaders, influencers, and change makers. People that aren't just doing well in life, but are doing good in the world by giving back, by contributing of themselves, their time, their heart, their finances, their wisdom, and making an impact in the world to make this place a better place. And we can all do that by just being a little kinder to each other, right? Today, I have a special guest that I've recently met through mutual friends, and she is an inspiration because of what she's doing now, what she's been through, and I think it's a story that a lot of people can resonate with. It may be a little edgy at times, but that's okay because that's how we roll. I'm going to bring her on. She's in the green room already. I'm going to bring her on to share her story of survival, of perseverance, and not just surviving, but thriving. So with that said, let me bring up the one and only Janelle Gordon. How are you, my friend?
Oh, it's so good to see you again. This time
It's
without
great.
a panel of judges, right?
Right. Yeah, no judgment zone. No judgment.
No judgment zone.
How are you? Good to see you again.
It's such a pleasure to be here. I was just so honored that you asked me to be on your show with all your amazing platform that you have. I see you have some of the greats, Joseph McClendon on, and amazing. So it's just an honor to be here.
And, well, it's an honor to have you. You know, it was, when we met. So for clarity, we met on Sean Callagy's quote unquote stage through the Real Raw role play, and
yes.
You were one of the contestants, and I was, I guess, the role player at that time. So we met, and you have a compelling story. You're, where you've been, what you're doing, where you're going, is fascinating, and what you're doing to, I guess, help humanity in many ways, both in what you're doing with recovery for victims of the sex trade and the recovery of them coming out, which I'll let you explain because you'll do a much better job than I. And also helping, women specifically reconnect themselves to their own sexuality, their own sensuality, I guess is maybe a better word.
Yeah.
So with that said, I'm going to stop flapping my gums and let you tell us a little bit about you. Tell us who Janelle is and where you've been and how you got to be where you are.
Well, thank you so much for acknowledging both aspects of my life. I think it's really important that people don't just see me as a survivor, but they see me as a businesswoman too. I mean, let's be honest. I was just in Utah at Operation Underground with Sean Callagy and with Courtney Epps, as a lot of you know, and several others. And I have to say, although it was the most amazing opportunity to be there and represent my nonprofit, and Sean and Courtney did nothing wrong. No one did anything wrong. I'm just sharing, being honest, and I know you like that, of what it's like to always have to try and prove myself, even beyond what I've come through. One of the gentlemen there, he was talking after everyone spoke and shared their stories, and he said, "You know what? I want to write you and you and you a check." But he looked at me and said, "I want to give you a hug." He didn't acknowledge the fact that I had a nonprofit and that he was giving checks to all the other nonprofits, but because I was the only one as a survivor as a nonprofit, I'm not valuable enough to give a check to, but I get a hug. And I don't say that I'm not trying to I'm just real. And I felt like I could be real enough and share that with you, that this is the stigma that I still deal with today, being free for about 6 years now, having a legitimized nonprofit that works with victims of human trafficking around the world. I wasn't wealthy. I wasn't a rich, white, wealthy woman who got bored and started a nonprofit. I did this after I was bought and sold for 10 years, and nobody helped me because when I got out, they said, "You're too old to be in any of the programs." The only person that helped me, I'll talk about recovery. There was a few angels that God sent along the way, but as far as recovery, rehabilitation, was Tony Robbins. He reached out to me when nobody else would help me. I was failing at life. I was failing at being a mother. I know we talked about being dyslexia. Well, that came after suffering over 10 years of abuse and head trauma to the point of experiencing massive concussions to where now I have mild TB. I don't have anything extensive, I'm not going to lie, but I have enough that it gave me a learning disability. So I have to work twice as hard. I can't write. I did write my book in a day, but I spoke the entire book because it's hard for me to write and type. This is why when I love that you're live and I don't have to do the questions. I always cringe when people are like, fill out this page. I'm like, oh my God, can I please just talk?
Yeah, that's not, listen, if it makes you feel any better, I probably, have to deal with some of the similar challenges that you have, because I prefer to speak than write. That's for sure.
Right. Yes.
So,
yeah.
It's all good.
So I got a little ahead of myself, but I felt important to say that I always feel like, thank you so much, Dana. What a beautiful message. And honestly, just, to be quite honest, this is things that I deal with often. People want to just judge me at judging a book by its cover, and you just cannot do that. How many times have we heard that phrase and we don't listen? Because if you really know me and you're in my inner circle, you know that I'm very creative in marketing, and that I understand what it takes to build a business without maybe a big budget, right? Or no budget. And I'm doing this, and people should be respecting me and supporting me instead of saying, oh, putting me down for what I'm doing, legitimate work that's not in the sex working business, that's providing a roof for my son, who's now 5 and who is, an African-American child, and providing services for women victims of human trafficking around the world. Why wouldn't you support me? And so to me, and I'm not trying to make this all about me, this is about we, right? When, oh my God, she's so sweet. We're called Beyond Freedom, and it's beyondfreedominternational.org. So what's so frustrating to me, I know it sounds like I'm saying poor me, but I'm not saying, it's not about me, it's about we. I'm a survivor that has been blessed, been fortunate enough to have been personally assisted by Tony's team. We send our victims to his, our survivors, if you will, to his Unleash the Power Within. He donates the tickets, and then our nonprofit, and with the gracious donations of people like yourself, we get them there. We get them the support they need, the flights, the hotels, the meals, and then the aftercare of being through an intense organization. A couple of our girls had been free a month, and then they come to this event. Can you imagine that? So this is the type of things that we do. But the reason I get so upset isn't because of me, and I'm not going to lie and say it doesn't upset me at all, but that I see this happening to other victims. And that's why this is a $150 billion global industry that's trafficking your children and targeting them, believe it or not, and that we have to fix it. And how we fix it is, yes, rescuing them. Thank God for organizations like Operation Underground, but that's the first step. It's literally like saying, I'm not going to drink anymore, right? That's the first step. What happens next, right? That's when the journey really starts. I think we can all agree. It's the same thing.
That's when the work starts. Making that commitment is one thing, but then stepping up and doing the work.
Doing the work and getting the support that is needed, right? That's why they have the 10-step program, AA, and all these things, and your accountability partner. It's the same thing with rescuing victims. People put so much emphasis on rescue, and awareness. And I like to say, I don't focus on either one. Doesn't mean I don't do those. Those are a part of the organization. But we holistically rehabilitate victims of human trafficking using all the modalities that I experienced that helped me heal and more. And so I know we kind of went backwards to go forward, but sometimes we do that, right? I'm kind of showing you the end.
This is a free form platform. Like I had told you in the beginning, this is unscripted. It's real. It's raw. It's unscripted. And I think it's important to speak the way people speak, not the way that that anyone thinks that it should go. This is just the way it goes. I'm very okay with that. So don't worry about it. And my audience and the people that are listening, I know that they're used to it as well. So it's all good.
Good.
So don't worry about it.
Yeah, so understanding PTSD. Thank you for pointing that out. So right now we're in the process of raising money for, I don't know if you've heard of the Beamer mats, which is the electromagnetic frequency. Yeah. So we put survivors on, and they're about 8,000, so they're not cheap. So that's what we're raising funds for now. We put survivors on this, in literally one session, they notice a difference in their PTSD. I have survivors begging me to get a mat. And so this is the work that we're doing. We're using all kinds of healing modalities because we know that that's what it's going to take to rehabilitate a victim, a survivor rather. Right. And some people, that the plant medicines helps as well. I see that. But so to kind of go back to my story, I was trafficked for 10 years, mostly in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I was trafficked through the strip clubs at a very high level. So probably not what you would expect, like what you'd see in a lot of the stuff we see now, right? Where it's very seedy areas and kind of, low budget motels and things like that. That absolutely does happen. But the way I was trafficked, it was at a very high level, a lot of money, think Jeffrey Epstein's, those are the people I encountered on a regular basis, right? And so this is the level that I was trafficked at. And I think what most people want to ask, so I'm going to answer the question now, is people just don't understand how. They always say, did you get drugged and thrown into the back of a van? And that is, to me, just, it's a well-meaning question, but it's like a blissful ignorance that I would like to erase, because this does happen, that does happen, but quite frankly, it's very rare that it happens like that. The majority of how it happens, it's someone that the victim knows, trusts, or it's someone that gets into their life, and then maybe they didn't know them all their life, but gets into their life, builds that rapport with them, right? We all know about this, especially if they're in the Tony world, and goes in and meets 3 of their 6 human needs at one time. We know that becomes a habit, right? That like an addiction you can't break. And that was a really life-changing thing for me when we did this work in Tony, and UPW, David Destiny, all the things we go into this really deep, is I understood now why I was in it for so long, right? I understood that he was meeting my needs, and I couldn't, like, you can't get out of it. It's so hard to get out of that, especially when you're fearful of your life, your family's life, and you've seen the danger he's done to other people. So I think that's the thing that was really crucial for me to understand, is that traffickers are practical psychologists. They're like Tony, but not with the heart of Tony, right? They know what to say, they know what to do, they know how to prey on your weakness, and they know how to get you addicted to the love, the significance, the certainty that you desire, right? Those are the things I wanted: the connection, the love, the significance, and the certainty, because my life was always so uncertain. Growing up a product in the foster system, experiencing physical and sexual abuse as an infant, all the way up until I was almost 5. So all those things really groomed me to be the perfect victim. So yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to jump in or on anything I said.
No, I'm listening to what you're saying. I mean, it sucks. And, unfortunately, what people don't understand, it's, so many people are quick to judge. And look, to be honest with you, 20 years ago, I probably would have been one of those people judging. 25 years ago, before I grew, grew into who, there's judgment because people don't understand. They don't understand the psychology behind what happens, how it happens, how you become a victim, how you become trafficked, how people get into drugs. It's real say, oh yeah, well, let's that person made a choice, or there's so many different things that can go wrong and in life that can put you in that almost inevitable path of victim, or it can make you an easy target, right? And there's so many people in that right now. So I'm just listening, and I hope that everybody that's out here is listening with an open mind, because one of the things that I strive to do is, and something that I've worked very hard myself to do, is to have an open mind and to be able to understand things at a different level. So I'm hoping that everybody that's watching is also watching and listening with an open mind and an open heart to understand what it is that is happening, the conversation that we're having. So I'm just listening.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. And I think I'm trying to touch on the points that I know people always ask me, because it's so sweet. Because to me, if I can help, like, people kind of shake this ignorance, which it's not their fault, they just don't know, then I can help them create more empathy. And I think we all need more empathy. I mean, the state of the way our world is today, we have to come from that place. And understanding, like you said, that the psychology behind it, I think, is very important. And I know you being a coach and stuff, you get this better than most people. And so, yeah, for me, I just was so trapped. I could not get out of this cycle. Honestly, for me, when I just thought that was life, when you grow up in poverty, you grow up a vulnerable population, you just think that that's normalcy. You don't understand that there's something out there on the other side, that there, like, if you've never had, the finest things in life, you just don't even think that that's a thing, so you
don't know. Yeah, you don't know what you don't know.
And you always go back home. You always go back to what feels like home, right? And so to me, abuse and trauma was what I experienced my entire life. So I just went back to that, and time and time again. And it finally took the right leverage. It's so interesting when I go to Tony's events, I sit back and I think about everything he's saying as how it happened in my life. I don't know if you do that, but for me, it's helped me.
I've been a trainer with Tony for a couple of years now. So
I didn't know it was just me. I think like, oh my God, the reason I kept going from trafficker to trafficker was home. And that was the emotional state that I knew. And they were meeting my needs. And so it was just like the next to the next thing, right? Wherever you go, there you are. It doesn't matter if you even move states. It was just the same cycle. So I really got enough leverage, and that really made sense when he talks about that, right? Having enough leverage to change. One night, I was sitting in a strip club in Seamless, and this is actually how I start my TED Talk. So that will be coming. So I need all the practice I can get. We were sitting at this club, this after hours club called Seamless in Las Vegas. It was about 3:30 a.m. in the morning. And I remember sitting there across from my colleague. I'd been stripping with her for about 6 years in Vegas. And we worked together very closely, although she really didn't know me because my trafficker had given me a script of what I would say. And so every question that was ever asked to me was a pat answer. And this young woman actually happened to be from Newport Beach, believe it or not, which is the city that I live in today. And she just asked me a question that changed my life forever. And it was in that moment I was sitting there, and I remember still smelling the cigar smoke, and it was after hours. My feet were aching from being in 6-inch heels for about 10 hours. I was tired. And I sat down and I looked in my Louis little clutch that I carried my money in, and I had only $300. And I needed $3,000 to go home before, or else I would be suffering another beating. And I was just recovering from my last one. I had been thrown down a flight of stairs in Gladys Knight's neighborhood, literally across the way from her, and was punched in the head and face repeatedly, and then eventually choked out to the point of passing out. And then you think that's the worst thing. I was actually thrown out on the front porch like I was garbage around 3:34, and this is that magical time of the night. And I remember it was a miracle because he threw my bag out. My phone was there, and he took my keys like I was going to drive in that condition. I passed out on the steps for hours. I don't know how long. When I woke up, I remember everything was like blurry. And if you've ever played sports and you have a concussion, you know what that's like, right? Everything's very spinning, but it's a scary feeling. And I looked at my phone, and I could see the numbers, but I couldn't move my hand to dial 911. And it was the strangest experience I'd ever had, because it was like my mind was saying, get help, but I didn't have the function to move my hands. And so some more time went by, and then I finally was able to pick my phone up again, and I was able to dial 911. And the police, but as soon as I called the police, I hung up the phone because I saw my trafficker come out. And as he came out, he was supposedly supposed to help me, but he ends up taking me, throwing me into the car, and actually repeatedly punching my head in on the way over to another property that we had to get me clothes, because he supposedly was going to help clean me up. He ends up raping me and then bringing me back to the house. And thankfully, the police were there because the number had actually gone through. Well, again, I was trained so brilliantly on what to say. The police kept asking who called, and I just told them, you know what, it was a mistake, blah, blah, blah. And thankfully, Henderson Police Department, they got him eventually, but it wasn't that time. They got him many years later. But I say all that to say that was the leverage I had behind this question. And when she asked me these words that said, don't you want to be happy? I realized in that moment, I didn't know what happiness was at that point in my life, but I wanted to try and find out. And so as that night, we devised a plan to fake my own death, and through a long sequence of events that would take more than enough time that's allotted for this today, I was able to escape my traffickers and eventually ended up on an island in Thailand where I was able to heal, get back into my body, and where I started studying an ancient form of yoga that helped me to really just reconnect to my body for the first time ever in my life. And so that was what was the starting point, the beginning of the end of,
Wow. Wow. Powerful story. Again, it's easy to judge when you don't know. It's easy to judge when you're unaware. And the one thing that I say, and conversation comes up in a lot of different circumstances with a lot of different possibilities of what could go sideways in life. Mm-hmm. Conversation I was having with someone earlier today says, listen, I don't want to think that way, because none of us are free from the possibility of something like that happening to us or one of our loved ones, right?
Correct.
To our kids or whatever, because everything from drug use to alcoholism to whatever, right? I mean, whatever spectrum, wherever you want to take that conversation. So you don't understand, you don't know what you don't know. The one thing I like to say is, you don't piss into the fan.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Or spit in the air, or whatever analogy you want to do, because none of us are free from sin, and none of us are free from making mistakes, and none of us are we all live, none of us and all of us live in a glass house.
That's right. And I think it's so important for people to understand that it's really easy for us to exploit women like myself, simply because we're easy. We're easy to pick on, if you will, right? We've already been labeled the worst Mary Magdalenes of the world, right? And I'm okay with that. In fact, I started a whole form of healing, dance movement therapy called Dance of Magdalena. I then shortened it to Dance Om because it was too long to market. But I thought, you know what? I love this. I'm going to take this because you know what? That was actually the person who Jesus was closest to, other than his mom. And so I thought the power of taking, something so dirty and so what society has said is the worst, and rising up from that is just, I don't know, it's something I find like to be so inspiring. And I don't care what people think about me, but I do think that we need to care about how we're treating these women that have been exploited and been profited on, and have literally had been branded like cattle. Human trafficking victims, it's a whole psychological thing. So pimps will tattoo their names on them or barcodes on them to let them know their product. And I experienced this myself 3 times. So I know what it's like to feel like I'm a product. And how do we live in a world that bought and sold us? This is the question. How do we go from product to person? Nobody wrote a rule book for this, but I am. That's exactly what I'm doing. And that's exactly the work that I'm doing in Beyond Freedom, my nonprofit. So I think that it's easy for us to judge, like you said, but we've never walked in these young women's shoes. And the thing that the disservice that we can do to humanity is to continue treating women the way I was just treated on that Facebook feed that I told you about before I hopped on the air. And
well, the reality of it is, you don't know what you don't know. And, people judge because they think that, my hallucination anyways, I think that people judge A, because they don't understand, B, because they think that could never happen to me. Right.
Yeah.
And that goes everything from drugs to alcohol to whatever stigma you think, you think whatever it is, everything from from choices that people make in life. Not to go into anything because I don't want to start a firestorm, but we all know what different choices people make and what upsets different people. But you just never know. You never know. I guess I have to go there. So I'm going to.
We have to do this. And this is why, you know what, I'm happy to be the martyr. Like, if you want to poke fingers at anyone, you could do it.
No, it's not about you. I'm gonna.
Not you. I wasn't meaning you, talking about you. I was saying as society, at large. Like, I would rather them, if they want to, say comments and hurtful things, that they say it to me. I'll take it. But I'm very protective of the women I work with, because I realize and feel like they haven't been given the same amount of support that I have. And it infuriates me to think that people don't value them or want to exploit them or have them speak for their event for free, because to make them, these types of things, this is why I'm so passionate about the work I do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And, the reality of it is there's so many people that it's just easier to judge than it is to understand. That's one of the things that I say. And I think that it's important to speak to and invest in our youth and our kids, to educate them and put them on the right place, because it's certainly a lot easier to guide a child than it is to try to repair or fix. Not that anyone's broken, but to try to correct something after it's been after the damage has been done. But I'll say this, there's one of the choices that people make sometimes, and I'm not here to argue whether it's a choice or whether you're born that way. It's irrelevant. It's homosexuality, right? If someone chooses to go one way or another, then that's a hot button item. And I got to be honest with you, when I was younger, I was 20 years old. I'm like, oh my God, yeah, judgmental as shit. I'll be honest, because I grew up that way.
Yeah.
Right. But we evolve. Yeah. Right. We evolve. Willow, this is beautiful. Willow, you're so on point. Only until it happens to them or someone they love or care about.
By the way, this is, and I know she'd be okay with me saying this, because this is one of the young women that we work with. She's a survivor, and her story, if you think you have a bad life, you hear her story. Her mom actually sold her at 4. She was trafficked her entire life. And Beyond Freedom has been able to help her through her education, through car expenses, through anything she ever asked me. I got you. And this is why I do this work, because women like Willow inspire me, and I will take the shame and the pain any day. But I want them to change the way we are treating these young women who never got a chance at life. And it's my job.
Yeah, because it's not her fault that happened to her at 4 years old. So how can she know anything else? But so you're right on point. And Dana, you say she's spoken for free only. I'm not doing that shit. You know what? Listen. I'm all about charging for your time, and sometimes you're still gonna have to speak for free because
I don't mean like in this type of setting, but I mean like when they have survivors speak at their galas and not pay them and stuff like that.
Right, they're making money, exactly. Unless it's for a charitable contribution and they're doing time. Yeah. So I mean that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. And sometimes there's you've got to pay your dues, so to speak, to be able to get on certain stages. So I'm down with that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm the same way. Mine was more coming from a sense of exploiting these young women again.
Yeah, like absolutely. Like you said, if it's a revenue generating proposition, then everybody should benefit. But what I was saying before, so look, I've got no shame in saying it because I've evolved, right? We have the choice to evolve. We have the choice to grow beyond, Charles Darwin, again, sometimes quotes stick with me for several days. This is one that I've been saying just about every day on a show or on a conversation. Is he says that the one who will survive it's not the strongest or the most intelligent that survive. It's the ones that are most adaptable to change.
Correct.
And that means change of ideas, change of everything. Thought, everything. Yeah. Bottom line, we all have to be flexible, because if we're not flexible, we break.
Correct.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so I'll say that, we have to be able to be flexible and evolve beyond our current status. And that's speaking to today and what's happening in the world. And that's certainly speaking to us throughout our lives of evolution. So I'll say this. There's been more than one person that I know that has been severely homophobic. And again, I used to be that person. And not that I was that homophobic says that you're afraid of, but judgmental and whatever. I've certainly grown beyond that. I'm happy to say that. But I was, when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, I was, because that's how I was brought up, and that's how and until I knew better, that's what I did, or that's how I thought. But in the years that followed, there were people that I knew that were so animately, unbelievably like persecutive and just so unbelievably harsh on people. And then whose son turns out was homosexual, whose daughter, turns out, was homosexual, whose grandkid. And I'm like, shit, ain't that a bitch? And then they have to change their tune, because it's easy to critique. It's easy to judge. It's easy to poke fun or to whatever when it's not knocking at your door.
Exactly.
But when it's knocking at your door or it's in your house, then it sucks.
Well, and that's the thing. This is the thing, though. The people that I, was entertaining the most, or that I saw the most of, were the, loving father figures, religion, the people that are judging me now, the religious people, white collar people. So I'm like, oh, it's so interesting. Those were the most frequent flyers in the strip clubs and in the casinos and hotels. So I just, and then when we talk about, protecting your kids now, yeah, I was a vulnerable population. I'm being biracial, being a minority, being in the foster system, being a warden of the state till I was 24, all these things, it put me in a category to be a mark to be trafficked. However, pimps now, they don't even have to go on that vulnerable population. They can just go to the vulnerable population that is your kid's Instagram page, that is their Snapchat, that is their Facebook, that is their video game, that is the games that they've been pre-approved to play on your phone that they have, on their device, on their tablet. Because there's a pop-up on all games. There's pop-up capabilities on all games. And for groomers and pimps to come in and start talking to your kids. So that's when I tell people this, then they start to care and listen, because I school them, educate them that this is affecting the middle class America and even upper class. I have girls that I work with from Newport Beach whose parents are affluent, who, were trafficked because parents were traveling the world or left them, home with nannies or, whatever the case may be. Didn't know what was going on in their kid's life. And so I always tell parents that it is affecting you. Tell me anywhere you live, and I will tell you within if it's a rural area, maybe not 5 mile radius, but if you're in a regular city, a population, a 5 mile radius, that 5 to 10 miles, that there is a hotel or a chat room or an online forum or a strip club that a young girl is being bought and sold in, just period. And so this is the reality. And I work with Homeland Security. And so I know the statistics more than most do. And they're quite disturbing. And if you think that Corona, that everything eased up, it did not. In fact, it got worse because it just went online. And so these girls were being forced to be trafficked out of chat rooms and online forums and online porn sites, and still being forced to drive and have sex with these men wherever they were during COVID, endangering their lives. But pimps don't care about that. So I think, it's interesting that you brought that up, that the people that are always, it doesn't hit them until it affects them. And so I want to let you all know, if you're watching, I don't care where you are in the world, it's happening. So,
and I honestly, I think that this, not that it's amusing, but in a way it's kind of amusing to the conversation we're having, is that most of not most, a lot of the porn stars are they come from a family of preachers, right?
Correct.
Of ministers,
Correct.
oddly enough.
Yeah.
Right. So you never know. Look, at the end of the day, you never know. So I just hope that people move beyond the stigmas of your black, white, gay, the choices you've made, or you had a bad past. You know what? The past, one of the things I love to tell people all the time is that your past was a bruise. It's not a freaking tattoo. You don't
Yeah.
have to wear it on your face.
That's
We all grow through what we go through. And sometimes the people that appear the happiest, or the people that you think have their shit all together, maybe have been through some of the biggest wars and battles that people know nothing about, but they're not going to be talking about the difficult times. They're not going to be talking about how their husband beat them. Wait, how their wife beat them.
correct.
How their kids beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
That's right.
Nobody's going to talk about that. Nobody's going to talk about how, little Johnny, got arrested for this, or how, nobody's going to talk about the bad shit that happens in life. Nobody shows their scars. They only show themselves all made up and all life is perfect. And understanding that on social media specifically, we only see people's highlight reels. We don't see the pain. One of the things that I spoke to somebody the other day, sometimes you see people that, on because social media, it's great. Look, we're obviously on social media right now. So it's got its awesome, beautiful things, and it's got its terrible, unbelievably dark things. And then it's got the lies and all the bullshit. Right. There's people that I know that you look at them and they're posting beautiful pictures and they're always on. Never mind the fact that there's actually programs now that you can take your own picture, superimpose yourself, holding up the Tower of Pizza, hanging out in front of the of the Eiffel Tower, on the Great Pyramids of Egypt, on the Great Wall of China. You've never even been there, but you can superimpose. So look at, oh my God, they have a beautiful life.
Yeah.
But even I guess less real and a little darker and more painful is the people that have like, oh my God, perfect. Oh my God, you're perfect. I love you. My man of my dreams, woman of my dreams. I'm so happy. Oh my God, I wish you could experience what we're experiencing. It is magic. It is love. It's a bliss. We never fight. We never have anything. And then there's radio silence for 3 months and you find out that they're in the most contentious divorce you've ever heard of.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you never know. You just never know what you can't, honestly, I said this at the beginning, but you cannot judge someone by their Facebook profile pic. And I was profusely judged this morning by a group of, quote, Christians on the next podcast that I'm supposed to be on. And, because they were judging me for my for-profit business. But the fact is, like I was saying in the beginning, my for-profit, I'm a relationship and intimacy coach. So I work with mostly women, but women, men, and couples to help them shake the shame around their sexuality, how to develop a new and empowering connection and belief about it, and how to really use the power of their sexual energy to go deeper into whatever it is they believe. If it's God, Jesus, Buddha, like I'm not judging whatever works for you. I want you to have a deeper connection to that person or to that being. And so for people to judge me and to say that, my work is I'm selling sex, and, no, I actually did sell sex for many years, but I'm actually not doing that anymore. I'm really working with people to have healthier views of their body, of just their physical body, of their sexuality, and to build a healthy, empowered sensuality, because we have such where do we even go with this? We have such an exploitation of sex today that we've become immune to intimacy. We are the most connected society in the world. Every form of social media you could think of, Snapchat, YouTube, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, we have them all, but we are more disconnected now than ever before. And the work that I do is to help people experience more intimacy, more connection, and more bliss. And yet I'm judged for that because I want people to have a healthy view of their sexuality. Listen, if I had that growing up, if I had been taught properly about sex, and if I had been educated that this is something to value, this is powerful, and that this is something, I know in most religions, they can, you should have this during marriage. I'm not saying how you should have it. I'm saying it should be consensual, and it should be healthy, and there should be pleasure involved in it. Those three things. And however it is for your faith, you can have that. But the bottom line is I should not be judged because this is the way I'm making an honest living. And I feel that people, they want to judge this because religion, first of all, you said it, dogma has conditioned us to think one way. And then we have the media and society that has exploited sex. So sex in religion is shameful and sending you to hell. Sex in the media is something to be exploited, and it sells a lot of products, right? And then sex in school is so medical, it confuses people. And then that's all the sex people are given, except for your 11-year-old who sees their first piece of porn. And we know, or I know, and I'll tell you if you don't know, but if you say you haven't watched porn, the numbers are probably not going to go in your favor, because I know that 40 million American people actually watch porn. You're saying it? I believe. Okay. Oh, you're not saying it. And every second, a second just went by, 300,000 people are watching porn right now. Wow. So listen, this is the facts. This is what I tell people. You can be uncomfortable and not want to have this conversation with your kids and let school do it, or let church, whatever, scare them. But listen, let's just put all that aside. We live in 2020. If we're not properly educating people about the power of their sexuality, the sacredness of it, and that everything around it, then if we don't do it, a pimp certainly will, or a porn star will. And let's just be honest, the porn that's out there is extremely, extremely violent and degrading and manipulating. And, the porns that sell are the daddy and stepdaughter porn, stepfather or daddy and stepdaughter, all the ones with underage and older men, the gangbangs, rapes. Those are the porns that are popular. Those are the ones that sells. So let's just say that that's the first glimpse of sex your 11-year-old is getting a hold of. And by the way, about 70% of 11-year-olds say they stumbled upon porn by accident. They were not looking for it, because there's about pop-up windows almost on every type of device today, unwanted, right? So your kids are going to get it from somewhere. And unfortunately, the porn industry is not a great place for them to learn about sex. Because what do? We just model what we see, right? So then we go into wanting to model this violence towards, here's the trending porn. You want to know what the trending porn is now? You flush a girl's head down the toilet, and then you penetrate her from the back. And that's what your kids are watching. And that's where they're learning about sex. Shit. Yeah, so exactly. We have our work to do. So you can talk about, someone who does my work, who does, intimacy and relationship coaching around the world to help people to have a healthier view of sex, to learn about their body, to help women experience pleasure. Because for a lot of women, they can't, because they've experienced so much. Maybe they weren't trafficked, but they were abused or molested as a child, or they were raped. They can't experience pleasure. And yet they're in a marriage, and then they wonder why the marriage fails. Well, we got to heal her. Let's help heal her first. Then maybe she has a chance at this relationship, right? And so this is the work I do in my for-profit, and people want to crucify me for it. And I just find it like to me, it makes sense. If we had a healthy view of sexuality, we wouldn't have the perversion of child pornography and child human trafficking. It's just that simple, right?
Well, it's just funny that, we live in the US, we're probably the most uptight in the world about sex. Yeah, we have the highest divorce rate in the world as well, and usually because of sexual affairs. And again, I don't know what the porn rate is in this country to others. I know that that's just a worldwide thing. The reality of it is, having the honest conversation and having the understanding, I think is important, because there's so many people that just don't accept who they are, sexually, or they're because they were taught that it was wrong, it was dirty, it was something to be shameful of. And, and this happened by well-meaning mothers and fathers, trying to protect their kids so that they wouldn't have, rampant sex with whoever the hell came up. And so they're telling them all these bad things. You're going to go to hell, and, you're wicked and evil and
I'm Satan.
and all what's that?
I'm Satan.
Yeah, that you're Satan and that you're whatever it is that. And so because of that, people go into having relationships and then wind up settling into this thought that it's bad. Sex is a bad thing.
Right.
And it's a sinful thing. I mean, listen, never mind some of the whacked out religions that
we won't even go there.
We don't need to start any more battles.
No.
But there's so many. But at the same time, sorry, there's I've got bees.
That's
and I think
okay.
that there's flying around my head here. You're making it bad. It's not bad. It's part of nature. It's human nature. It's animal nature. It's our animal instinct. You're not going to be able to stop it.
That's right.
Right? You're not going to be able to stop it. So best to guide it the right way, because if you don't guide it the right way, you'll guide it the wrong way. I'm kind of horrified to know about the whole flushing the head down the toilet. And I'd never, I guess I'm not into any of the new stuff.
Exactly.
But,
and also, I think we have to stop shaming people for, here's the thing, in a perfect world, nobody watches porn, right? I mean, whatever. But we know
lie about it too.
Exactly. But listen, I'm not going to say that porn is wrong. I won't say that because I can't judge you or your life. However, I can say that 90% of the porn that's being made is not edifying towards women. There are, porn companies out there that are women run and operated, and they make kind of romance novel type porns and things like that. And I think for a couple in a relationship, and this is something they want to bring in, and this helps them spice up their love life, I don't see anything wrong with that. But I know by saying that, I'm going to get a lot of backlash, and that's okay, because my whole thing, healthy sexual relationship, sex should be healthy. It should be consensual. It should be empowering, and it should be full of pleasure. And however that fits for you and your relation, in your religion, your religious beliefs, have more of it. But like you said, the numbers and stats don't lie. What we're doing now isn't working, so we've got to fix that. And like you said, an unguided sex, misguided or unguided, it can end up in the wrong hands terribly. Oops, are we seeing? Oh, the police? Oh, okay. You were muted, but that's okay. I saw the police. They didn't like.
No, I said he's a friend of mine. But that's why I was looking down at my phone. He was telling me that my dog, and get this, my pig, are at the farm half a mile away. So thanks for bringing back the dog. My son's walking the pig back.
I'm like, oh, no, we got in trouble for having this conversation.
So sorry about that. Pattern interrupt.
That's okay. Pattern interrupt. Everyone's like, okay, what's going on? So yeah, no, I love what Tony was saying about how sex, misguided or unguided is dangerous, right? Like the scalpel in the hands of a surgeon can save a life, but in the hands of a killer can take lives. So it's the same thing about sex. Sex is a tool, just like anything else. It's a very powerful tool, and it should be guided. There should be a rule manual for that. And why are men so used to this? Their psychology? Yeah. Well, they're simply modeling what they've seen and what they've been conditioned to see.
Dangerous. Yeah, that's the dangerous part of sex being something that your kids learn from porn. Because again, porn when I grew up was not the porn that exists now.
Hardcore.
Right?
No.
And maybe the porn that I had access to at the time wasn't, the highest quality. Maybe, I don't know.
The Playboy type stuff like that.
Right, exactly right. Now, some of the stuff that's out there is scary. And that's the whole thing with the head and I never even, holy shit.
It's
crazy.
Yeah.
So, and the reality of it is, if that's the porn that kids are exposed to, or that's what they learn, how they learn about sex, think about, a young girl seeing that and says, oh, that's what I have to do. That's how it's supposed to be.
Correct.
And men say, no, I guess being gentle is weird because that's not how they do it on in the movie. So I'm going to have to be violent. I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to, do whatever. And it doesn't have to be degrading. So it's such a twisted goddamn rabbit hole that you wind up going into, because the parents are looking at and adults are looking at them like, holy shit, that's why I don't want my kid to have sex, and they don't talk about it, and then that's what their kid winds up seeing, and that's what they wind up doing. So it's just kind of a crazy goddamn thing. It's got to stop somewhere. Look, I'm not a fan of the way that they're teaching sex ed in school. I don't think that, I think that it should really be more of a home-based thing.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother conversation that can start.
I happen to agree, but parents aren't doing it though. I think more parents need to step up. And if I told you the top DM I get on Instagram from young boys, and I wouldn't say young, but maybe, college, early college, maybe right out of high school, is I don't know what to do. Can you show me how to have sex? I'm a virgin and I don't know. I've seen this, or, these young kids that are so conditioned by porn. I'm having problems with premature ejaculation or with ED because they've been so messed up by porn for so many years that now they can't have an erection now without.
Right, without the craziness, because maybe the person that they're with doesn't like that violent shit. Maybe they don't like to have their head stuck in a toilet. Weird, right?
Exactly.
Right. So they can't get their satisfaction, and so yeah, I get it, and it's weird. And then relationships wind up falling apart because couples aren't getting what they think they should be getting because of this. And it's funny, by the way, as we're talking, we went from 15 viewers to 8 to 10 to 7 to 10. Now we're down to 1. Thanks for hanging in there, Dana. And again, because this is an uncomfortable conversation. It's not popular. It's not a popular thing. The reality of it is it's still an essential conversation that needs to be had, whether people like to have it or not. So I can't even imagine some of the messages I'm going to get after this, but it doesn't matter. Listen, I'm not here. I'm here to enlighten people and shed some light on some of the things that are happening in the world and society, and helping elevate people, and bringing awareness to some problems and some challenges and concerns. So whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah,
it is what it is.
We'll come back and watch it, and
I'm sure they will.
It makes people uncomfortable because they don't know how to deal with it, because no one's ever sat down and had an open conversation like this. And
listen, this is episode 125 or 126 of Tony Talks. This is the first time we've spoken about porn. It's true.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. This is the generation we live in. We have this Snapchat generation that encourages kids to take pictures of their genitals, and it disappears in 30 seconds. That's the world.
And it's okay, right? How crazy is that?
So
the problem is it doesn't go away, because you just go like this. Look, you go like this. Wait, hold on. Go like this. Oh, look, I just took a screenshot of my phone.
And then what it does is it notifies that person that they took a screenshot. So now we're doing a few things psychologically. First of all, we're pushing more shame in, because we're saying this is going to disappear, and it should. So we got to do it quick. And then it's also saying, they're telling them, you're a pervert. You just took a screenshot. So it's now just fostering more and more shame and perversion around sexuality. And no one's having these conversations with these kids to encourage them like that. They don't have to do that to be in a relationship. Like, they don't have to, but that's what the generation today is doing. It's just a fact. How do I know? Because most of the girls in my organization are young, and I created a Snapchat when I started my nonprofit, because we started as a club on campus. And after I met Tony, and Tony said he wanted to help me, and he wanted to help me help more women, I was just so inspired. I came home and demanded that this attorney help me file and turn into a 501. And we did. And she said yes. She's like, I couldn't say no to you. So she filed pro bono, and I raised all the fees for the government just by hosting yoga workshops on campus. So like $2,000 in filing fees. And then I turned this 501 or turned this club into a nonprofit that it is today. And I couldn't connect with the kids. And I was like, why are these kids not coming to the meetings? I don't understand. And one of the kids in my class said, well, you're texting them. I'm like, yeah, isn't that? And she's like, no, you need to Snapchat them. And I was like, okay. So I created a Snapchat account, and sure enough, I would text them and call them. No, wouldn't answer. If I Snapchat, 5 minutes later or a second later, they respond. So this is a Snapchat generation. And that's just how no one's having these conversations with adults. Well, yeah, I am. This is exactly the work I'm doing, which is why I get so much flack, so.
It's all right. Listen, it's if you didn't have any critics, that just means you weren't making an impact.
That's right.
You weren't making a difference. So I wouldn't worry about that. Critics are criticism is I learned this from friend Brendan Burchard. Criticism is the tax you pay for success.
Oh,
so
wow.
If you don't have anybody critiquing you, you don't have anybody critiquing you, you don't have anybody talking shit, you don't have any haters, you're not making enough of a difference. You're not making enough of an impact.
I love that. And you know what? If you've done any of, Tony's work in relationship mastery and stuff, he has a coach that is in the same line of work I do that comes in and, speaks to all his couples, men and women. So the thing is, like, maybe the work is unconditional. And I think people are more bothered by the fact that I was exploited by sex and now I'm empowered in it. That annoys them. And I don't get that. I'm like, I feel like they would be happy for me.
Listen, people get annoyed that you're empowered by sex, period. Because sex intimidates people because it's not something in their control because they can't control it or whatever. I mean, look, porn is an addiction. Sex is an addiction, or rather, not addiction. People get addicted to porn. They get addicted to sex. They get, all kinds of other bad shit that's happening because it's such a closet type conversation that nobody wants to have.
You're right.
If you have an open dialogue, it makes it a lot easier to be able to have the conversation, to have that relationship where you can actually communicate what it is that you want, what it is that you don't. Men think that they're doing something right, and the woman is like, "What the hell are you doing?" But they don't say anything. So they don't say that this is what they want, this is what they don't like, this is what they like. They don't say it because they're embarrassed. One thinks he's doing the right thing, or she thinks she's doing the right thing, and they're not.
And this is and then they're unhappy, and then they're like irreconcilable differences because they couldn't match sexually. When the point is,
they go out, they try to get what they need somewhere else, and sometimes they find it. Right? Only because the other person expressed, "Hey, yeah, you did that right. Oh, yeah, that was great." And sometimes the partner, whether it be the man or the woman, by the way, has been taught that sex is wrong.
That's right, and they have a limiting belief of
evil and all of this other shit. So we get so effed up by our parents, well-meaning, right? Trying to protect religion, which is just about control. God, did I just say that out loud? Look, I love
it because I would have normally said that, but you said it.
I'm much more of a spiritual. I mean, I'm Catholic by birth, right? And I believe in God, and I'm more spiritual than I am religious. But I also I'm very well aware that religion, the reason there's so many is because it's power and money, right? That's why there's so many sects of
nonprofits in the world.
Yeah. So, but the reality of it is, so it's just about power and control. I'm not saying that I don't believe in God. I'm not saying that I don't believe in Jesus. I do, and no judgment of whether you believe in that or not. It doesn't matter doesn't matter if you call whatever you call the God that you believe in a God that's good enough, or believe in a higher power that's good enough for me. Whatever you call him, I'm okay with. But it's a means of controlling a population to a large extent, right? And making sex wrong is just deepening the chasm that is this shame, the darkness, this thing that destroys relationships because it's not a communication that's had, and it's like it's not okay that we have conversations about sex.
Yeah.
Right. It's not, because how are you going to have a conversation with your kid about sex if you don't have a conversation with your spouse,
with your partner? Exactly. If you can't tell them what you like. Partner. Yeah.
Right. So how can you if you can't have an open conversation with your partner about sex, how the hell are you going to have them with your kids?
It's not going to happen.
And then your kids learn by example. They don't learn they don't do what you say. They do what
they watch you. That's right.
Right. What they watch or what they hear, not necessarily what you say, but it's what they hear, what they observe. So anyway, this is a conversation that could spiral really out of control.
It could be going on. And I think that's the thing that people they misinterpret about my work is like the number one thing I do actually doesn't even deal with sex. It deals with intimacy and connection with yourself. That's my whole work. And I teach, whether it's a couple, a single, it's like, what is in the way of getting you to dive deeper into you? Because all love, intimacy, connection, pleasure, it starts with you. This is like the saddest thing. Most women don't even know the anatomy of their body. I cry when I think about this. And yet you're mad at your husband or your guy, spouse, or if it's a woman, because he doesn't know how to give you an orgasm, or he can only give you one kind, when there's like 7 to 11 different forms out there. And I'm like, yeah, I teach all this in my boot camp. So the thing is, like, giving women power. Know your body. You know it. You give yourself an orgasm, and then a guy can do a guy, assuming your partner's a guy. I say that just because it's easier, but I'm acknowledging all relationships here. But you have to have that within yourself before you can expect someone to do it to you. So I think that's, yeah, you said out loud, I totally agree. Yeah. So it's all about the intimacy and the connection and the love that you give yourself first before any. Yeah.
I completely agree with that. And I say that, that connection with self is so important. And when you can connect with yourself at a deep level in a not only spiritual, but a sensual, a loving way, you get, I think that you get, it's when you really love yourself, you're honoring your creator, you're honoring your God, I believe. And because if we're all creations, again, you can't speak out of both sides of your mouth, right? If we're here to honor God, and then honor yourself, love yourself. And why is it that, as the joke goes, oh my God, I think, the neighbor's killing. No, I can't go into that joke where somebody says, oh my God, why? Well, because she says, oh God, I'm coming. There's a joke there. I'm not going to go there. I
know where you're going. This has just been such a pleasure. I actually just saw the time. I didn't realize it was 3:12, but I guess we could go on and on. I unfortunately do have to hop off another. Yes.
And then it says 7 forms. I'll say it in the way she would say 7 forms.
We'll have to put my site, the O factors in there. I don't know if
what's your site? Let's plug it.
Because I think we've already put the nonprofit, so just be the O factors. The ofactors.com. And then ofactors.com. Yeah.
Factors with an F?
With an S. Factors.
Factors.
The ofactors.com. Yeah. And then I'll reach out to Dana too. I just love her support. It was so appreciated. Yeah, she's amazing.
On Instagram, what's your handle?
It's I am Janelle Gordon. Unfortunately, I've already been censored once by them twice. So this is my last chance with IG. Blasphemy. All right. Yeah. So that's how you find her. And there's pigs and dogs and police. So let you go.
Cops are after my pig. So crazy.
This was so fun. We had to do this again, Tony. This was too much fun.
You can't make this stuff up. Anyway, so follow Janelle Gordon on Instagram and check out the ofactors.com.
But
is that right?
It's JENN. Can I type it here?
JENN?
I don't know if this is going to everyone. I am Janelle Gordon.
JENN. Sorry. Okay. No. Yeah, I got it. Hold on.
You want it? Maybe if you fix it, it might show up better. Because on yours, my name's spelled super special.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. You're dealing with a lot. You got your hands full.
The cop just took off. He went to look for my son and my pig because my son is looking. It's a potbelly pig. It's not like Anyway.
Son and your pig.
Never a dull moment at my house.
So much fun.
So thank you for coming on. Thank you for sharing your story, vulnerability, and everybody just check her out. There's nothing wrong with checking her out and listen, maybe it's something that you're interested in diving into. Maybe it's not. Kristen, I love the I got some chickens, I got some ducks, I got a couple beehives. Hey, hold on. There's a beehives back there in that corner.
God. It sounds like fun. There. Yeah, over there. Son would have a blast there. He would love it.
Oh my God. The fact that the cop well, he's a friend of mine, but yeah. Anyway, never a dull moment. Well, with that said, listen, I just want to say thank you for coming on. Thank you for taking the time. You've got to go, and I'm sorry that we've kept you over an hour. And for all of you that have watched and commented, thank you for your support. Thank you for sharing this video. We are streaming on YouTube and on Facebook, so feel free to share it if this video resonated with you. If this video or if this episode offended you, I'm sorry. Not sorry. Anyway, this is all done with love, and it's for all informational purposes. And you know what? I just hope that everybody just has an open mind and continues to again, love those. I say love yourself, love those who love you, and love those who you think sometimes maybe deserve it the least, because those are the ones who need it the most. Yep. Remember, my friends, and don't go away just yet, Janelle. Remember, my friends, that life is not about how many times you fail. It's not about how many times you fall. It's how many times you get up. And remember that it's in falling down that you learn. It's in getting up that you grow. And every single time you fall, you have an opportunity to get up and grow. And grow we must. I appreciate you all. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again on the next episode, which, by the way, will not be tomorrow because I will be in the air. So I'm traveling tomorrow, so I will not be here live, but we'll catch you on the next one. You'll see the announcement. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for watching. Ciao for now.